ready? I'd like to call the meeting to order. Welcome everybody to the annual reorganization meeting for the Watchung Hills Regional Board of Ed. I'm the board secretary and business administrator, Tim Stiles. I will be running the meeting in the beginning, so this is the only chance I get to bang the gavel. So I'll take advantage of it. Just kidding. This is the reorganization. It's done annually in accordance with state guidelines. Can I get everybody to stand for the pledge? Look that way. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You're going to get it lined up like that.
It's not as easy as it looks. Okay, the first thing I'd like to do is announce the results of our annual election. As many of you know, we have 3 board members, returning board members. From Long Hill, Bernie Yaggett, Rob Horowitz from Warren, and Sandra Fechner from Watchung. And the budget passed, thankfully, passed in all 3 towns, and the final vote was 1,874 yes, 1,532 no. The next item we'd like to take care of is swearing in of the newly elected and continuing board members. We have 4. Mr. Horowitz, Mrs. Fechner, Dr. Yaggett, and Mr. Binder, returning from Greenbrook. So,
Thank you, Greenbrook.
Thank you.
I've set aside an oath item at your desk, at your table. I would ask at this point in time, I will read the oath, and if you could repeat after me, then we can swear you all in.
Do you want to stand up?
Would you like to stand, folks?
Do they have to?
Might as well.
Should we just read it
still
together?
able to stand.
Should we just read it together since we have the writing?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Just read it together. And
Just your name.
you should raise your right
You
hand.
don't have to do
Make it official.
Bernie, Rob, and Sandra.
We'll do it together, and it'll come out
Ready,
in
folks?
harmony. I,
I,
Sandra
Rob
Fechner,
Horowitz,
do
solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the government established in the United States and this state on the authority of the people, so help me God.
I, Sandra
Rob Horowitz, do solemnly
solemnly
swear
swear
that
that
I
I
possess the qualifications prescribed by law
for
for the office of member of the Board of Education, and I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability,
So help me God.
See that?
Wonderful.
We're all able to.
We're all
able to.
Congratulations to all.
I didn't know that was one of the requirements. Did you see that? You have to be able to read and write. Well, read and write. No proof that we can write.
Congratulations to all.
You sign it?
Yes.
You sign this?
Please
Yes.
sign
Fill it in and sign.
where indicated and send it to me. Thank you. We're going to log you in. The next item, I want to,
Just sign, right? There's nothing else you have to fill in, right?
yes, that's it.
Sign.
Yeah, and I got to certify it.
Oh, come on, you can write your name. Sign your name here, sign your name there.
It didn't say sign here. Only says signature here.
Well, yeah, but
Ah,
when they
folks.
do like that,
Just give it to me, I'll take that.
I wouldn't trust his signature for anything, guys.
Should have done X.
It's push-pulls.
Okay, item number 5 on the agenda. This is not the notice of the meeting. This is the Board of Education and Organization meeting and regular business meeting for which adequate notice under the Open Public Meetings Law was provided by written notice on April 17th, 2008, to the Courier News, Echo Sentinel, the Reporter, the Star Ledger, the clerks of the Borough of Watchung, and the townships of Long Hill and Warren. Take the roll call. Mr. Binder?
Here.
Ms. Fallon?
Yes.
Ms. Falzarano?
Here.
Ms. Fechner?
Here.
Mr. Horowitz?
Here.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Ms. Mandel?
Here.
Mr. Sun?
Yes.
Dr. Yaggett?
Yes.
Dr. Seelig?
Here.
Okay. The first item of business, or not business, is the election of the president. So at this time, I'd like to take a nomination for the position of president.
I'd like to nominate
He
Paul
didn't
Seelig.
call you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you. I bow to Mr. Horowitz, who would
Mr.
like to say the
Horowitz.
same. May I second it?
Yes. I'd like to nominate Paul Seelig for another term as president.
And I'll second that. Sorry, I didn't look to my right. I just looked to my left.
Are there any other nominations for the position of president?
Oh,
Hearing none, I'd like to get a motion to, actually, you know what, I will close the nominations for president. Get the motion to approve Dr. Seelig as president of the board.
I'll make the motion.
here,
Second.
I'll read it and then pass it.
To vote for Dr. Seelig as president. Ayes?
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? The motion carries. Dr. Seelig, you are president. You can take the tape
And
off
I
your...
thank you. I thank you.
You can take the tape off your...
I will do it, Peter. With that, I'd like to open up for nominations for the position of vice president.
Here's my name.
Sandra,
I'd like to nominate Peter Fallon.
thank you, sir. Do I have a second for that? Second. Somebody gave a second? Eric did. Can I just do a roll?
It came out of Eric. Second came out of-
Eric, you seconded?
Yes, he did.
Any other nominations?
Okay, any other nominations? With that, we'll close the nominations. Can I get a roll call vote? Just a voice vote. If all
Voice
those in
vote.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions?
When there's a good
Welcome
team
for
in
another,
place.
welcome for another term. Thank you all. I'd like to express my appreciation to everybody. Thank you. And with that, we can move on. We have a whole series of motions that have to do and deal with the reorganization of the board. I'm open to suggestions. I would, if you want to try to go through all of them individually, we can do that, or if you want to try to just go through as a block, we can do them all as a block, too. Does anybody have any of those that would be an A through, I'm going to stop at X. I don't want to do X this. A through W. Does anybody have any of those that they'd like to have pulled?
I'd like to pull M.
M or N?
M.
M, okay. Any others that would like to be pulled? Laura?
I have a discussion item question.
Yeah, go ahead.
On D, can we get some background on Ronald Rossi?
D.
It's the treasurer.
He's
Yeah.
the treasurer of school monies.
Who is he? Who does he work for?
Is he a teacher at the school?
Has the board ever?
He's a retired school business administrator for 25 years over in North Plainfield. Ron's been here, I guess, 5 years. I know since John. The position is statutory.
Let me ask a question about that. I mean, are you precluded from that position, Tim?
Yes,
You need independence.
you need independence.
I mean,
has to be
it
independent.
can't be a staff member at the high school?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Well, generally by law, by statute, what it is it's generally the township. It's the township treasurer.
You have to offer to them first.
Right, and if they decline,
Which township?
well, that's tricky here. You'd have to go to, I would imagine. I know this was a discussion at the time.
I'm not trying to make a big issue of this. It just, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't even know what the guy does. Does he handle money?
He does all the bank reconciliations, and he handles the treasury report on a monthly basis.
He does the reports,
Yeah.
but he doesn't.
But he's not handling money.
He doesn't handle cash.
No.
Is-
He's got to reconcile the cash accounts to the secretary's report each month. So we have
It's
to
like
work
having
together.
two people do accounts payable and accounts receivable. I mean, in a sense, it's
It's a
two
check and
different
balance.
people.
It's a check and balance.
Is $9,500 the going rate?
It's kind of all over the place. It depends, you know.
$4,000 in Greenbrook.
Yeah.
Well, I
Different schools
understand.
pay
You're
different
a little
amounts.
bigger operation, too.
I've seen in the teens in some places, so it's not uniform.
Just does he, is he, I assume he doesn't carry his own insurance. Is he covered under our insurance?
He has to be bonded.
Is he?
Yeah. The two,
Goes on
both by
Do you know this
statute.
guy, Peter?
No, but I know that any treasurer has to have their own bonding in order to qualify for the position.
Does anyone know this person? Do you know him, Paul?
Do you know him,
Bob?
Yeah, I'm working here with him. He performed the service very well, and he's available, which is important on the treasurer's school money. He has to sign every check and verify every deposit, so it works very well.
About just in terms of approximate hours per month I mean, I'm not saying if you about this person, but in your experience, a treasurer's school our size would be about how many hours a month?
But there's a big difference in hours because the reconciliation of the bank accounts is his responsibility. So at reconciliation time with the accounts the size of yours, he would probably work 40 hours that week.
Really? Per month?
The rest of the month would be, yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
The rest of the month would be fairly well.
I guess the only other thing I'd say, I mean, he works with our auditor, Gary. Okay,
Yes, he does.
and Gary Vinci, as far as we know, has no issue with him, right?
No, he's one of the strengths, actually.
What?
He's a strength. I'm telling you, he's a strength.
Okay, so we know.
Yeah.
Why don't you ask him, I don't know, if maybe come to one of your finance committee meetings, just so you get a chance to meet the guy.
Yeah.
It's been here for 5 years. None of us have you ever met him, Peter?
It's rare that most
Peter,
boards
you ever
don't
met him?
know.
I think so.
Okay. Well, he's doing as our job is got to have him. Bob knows of him, and most importantly, our accountant thinks highly of him. That's I don't have to meet him.
Okay, so we have,
Is the rate the same as last year?
It's a slight
Yeah,
increase,
okay.
3%.
so I have,
Paul, let me just
I have A through,
Laura just said maybe when we do get to that point in a future meeting where you and I spoke
we
about
talked
bringing
about
somebody's bill, maybe just ask him to come and introduce himself.
okay, fair enough.
Any other things to be pulled?
We have M pulled. Do we have any others between A and W to be pulled? Can I get a roll call vote on?
I'd like to move A through X.
I need a motion, I'm sorry. I need a motion on
through
A
X
through.
with the exception of M.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's been moved, do I have a second? You
Yes.
seconded?
And that's with filling in Paul's name on G.
Yes. Is there any blanks? I think that was it.
You know what?
No, I
Question.
just have one thing.
Oh.
It's been moved and seconded.
Which?
A through X.
A through W, except for
Except for
M.
M.
Let me just ask a question. I'm
With the
not saying
modification
necessarily
of my
pulling,
name on
because,
it.
Laura just sort of poked me on this one also. This polygraph company,
Which number?
V.
B.
Frankly, I've never seen that before. I don't know if I paid attention to it last year or whatever. Is this a typical high school appointment, having someone who does polygraphs on retainer?
He's more or less a residency officer, yeah, and this is typical. He looks for those individuals that residency is in question, and he performs an investigative service. I call it the stakeout.
So he came to one of our meetings.
No, that was different. I thought he was the detective, that guy who came.
He was the detective who came to our meeting.
So he's the same guy?
Same person? Yeah.
Yeah, he may have. I don't think I was here.
The only question
He also works in Green Grove.
Yes, we use them in
the only question I really have about this gentleman is it's not, I assume he's got the qualifications. He's been doing it is he's getting roughly $1,000 a month. We said $11,000 a year. My question is, during the past year, do we have a sense of how many hours this guy worked? Because if it's, I don't know. I'm just saying if it was 10 hours he worked, and I'm not saying he worked 10 hours. Obviously it would be better to work out a hourly fee than paying $11,000. I don't know. Do you know, Tim, how many hours this guy's
No,
put in?
offhand, I don't know. I know he's
Well,
been
there were some
involved.
cases I know he investigated last year that came before us.
I know there was one in Watchung and whatever. I don't know.
And I have,
I'm not-
I have 4 currently.
We'll put him on the list of people to come with us at that
I'm
time.
not trying to hold it up. I just really have a.
And I have 4 investigations currently.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if it's an active thing, maybe
Yeah.
that's.
On this, which looks like a retainer, is there a certain number of hours that are included in the $11,000?
I'd have to look.
Well, it's almost to Bernie's point also. I mean, it does it work both ways. I mean, if we had 4 investigations, if we had 20 investigations, that's the luck or unluck of the draw. He does however many investigations we need him to perform.
Right, this is not quantity related. If we have 20, we pay him the same rate. as
If we have 1 or 20, he gets the same amount. So he rolls the dice, or we roll the dice, either way you
Right.
want to look at it. Is that right, Tim?
Yeah, that's not, because it's not,
Sheet, but there's never a charge.
right.
So he could have a real good year if we had a few investigations.
I understand.
Any investigation takes more time than you would think because we literally sit outside of residence.
It was like 5 o'clock in the morning, I know, and that, okay.
There's a lot of hours involved with each individual.
Yeah, essentially it is, that's exactly right. It's not, he doesn't perform by hour.
Also, just in cases like this, also, he's licensed by the state of New Jersey, I assume, he's bonded?
Yeah, oh yeah, all employees are. But
What?
he is under...
Well, he's not a police, he's a detective. I mean, I assume he's got the proper licensing?
Yeah, yes, he has to have his licensing.
Just, with all, just as one thing, with all these people who are bonded, the last guy we talked about, and with licenses, I think just as a matter of course, at the beginning of the year, meaning now, Tim, you should send out to these people who have these licenses or bonding to ask them to send copies of licenses to us and bonding information. It's like insurance. You don't have an issue unless there becomes an issue, so you just want to make sure that's on file.
Yeah, and we have a standard contract there, and they have to give us the proper insurance, and they have to give us also, there's other purchasing requirements that they have to provide.
Any other discussion on the motion in front of us? I would like to point out that motion J, which has to do with the Code of Ethics, we are required by law to have a discussion on. We can do it at this meeting, or we can do it at the next one. I would suggest we do it at the next one. Do we have to do it at the reorganization meeting, the discussion on the Code of Ethics?
The language there says that you...
Well, yeah, we do actually say it. I mean, you have to do it annually.
Right. It says, in this case, it just says resolved that we're making it part of the official minutes. It doesn't say
Right.
that we have a...
To be read and made part of the official minutes.
So we've read it. It's become part of the official minutes, but we haven't had a discussion on it. I think by law you're required to have a discussion on
Annually.
it annually. So we don't have to have it at this meeting. We have to have
Everybody, yeah, usually we do it at the reorganization, because it's an annual meeting.
Right.
It's like a reminder.
With the board's indulgence, I would suggest we do it at the next meeting. We may have some more time than we do at this meeting. Can I get a roll call vote then on the motion in front of us, the A through W, excluding M?
Mr. Binder?
Yes.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mr. Falzarano?
Yep.
Ms. Fechner?
Yes.
Mr. Horowitz?
Yes.
Ms. Mandel?
Yes.
Ms. Pepe?
Yes.
Dr. Seelig?
Yes.
Mr. Sun?
Yes.
Dr. Yagan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Can I get a motion on M?
I'll move M.
Can I get a second on M?
Second.
Discussion on M.
I guess I'd like to explain why I wanted to pull this one out. There are two things I'd like to bring up to the board. The first issue is that his rate has gone up to $160 an hour. If you compare that to O and P, these other law firms have two different rates, one for legal work and one for paralegal. I recall back in the October timeframe when I was looking through the legal bill, I saw a charge for Tony doing spreadsheet work at $155 an hour. Now, having had experience with Tony, I don't think he did the spreadsheet work, and I don't think it's legal work, and I'm surprised that we were billed at the $155 an hour. So the first question I want to raise is why don't we have a different rate for paralegal work that is not really legal work? The second issue is that I've observed Tony being a very busy guy. I think I don't know how many districts he worked for. I'd like to get that answer sometime, but not tonight. The last two negotiations meetings, he was supposed to be here. The one a month ago, he finally showed up about 9 o'clock for a 7 o'clock meeting. Last night, he never showed up. I believe we don't have enough of his mind share. I believe he's a very busy person, and I think that we ought to try to phase in someone who could give us more mind share and be more regularly available to the board. I'm not proposing that we don't do this tonight. I'm only proposing that we start to look around and see what other services are available and maybe have someone else that could be a little more reliable in terms of making meetings.
Okay. Jerry?
What I asked Tim about all these rates for the lawyers, I think, Tim, you said that he's the only one who raised his rate this year?
Other than the district auditor.
Other than the auditor, all the other legal firms, you told me he wanted to raise it $10 and you said no to that, and so he raised it $5. I still felt under the laws now where we're limited to what we can raise. I mean, keeping these fees fixed at these rates would have been a good thing for the district rather than him raising his fees. I do agree with Bernie, and to add to that also, I hate legal fees, I hate lawyers, that they're necessary evil. You don't have to adopt.
Peter, you going to let that remark go unresponded to?
When they represent.
It's directing to you,
When they
not
work
me.
for schools, let's put it this way, they're not educationally.
School board lawyers.
Not educationally additive. Peter is educationally additive, so that's different. But there's no, you don't have to adopt it at this meeting either. These are services that begin in July, right, Tim?
That's correct.
So if you table this for another meeting or so, it does not really affect anything.
See, I think the bigger issue, and I understand what you're saying, when you look at the fees, whether it's $150 an hour, $155, $160, $195, in and of itself, that to me is not the issue. The issue really is, and I think Peter and Jerry, maybe myself, can take a little more active role in this. It's really looking at the volume of hours that relate to work done. Because, listen, there are phenomenal lawyers. Going rate right now is $700 an hour for a key corporate guy. You could get, a corporate lawyer to give you 5 hours of work, $3,500, and saves you $3 million. That's why lawyers like that, they don't bill on hourly rates because their advice is not related or proportionate to what you're saving as a client. But to the point here, what we're really asking, I think it's very important when you look at legal bills. If you see, the buzzwords are, reviewing, researching, drafting, attending meetings, phone conferences, all this type of stuff. Okay, so I think relating in really more of a significant way is that it's incumbent upon us to look at the bills and see if there's a rational relationship between the hours, the hours on the bill for the service. Because at the end of the day, if Tony's charging $160 an hour and he does something for 5 hours that achieve a phenomenal result, that's less important. That's a better result than a lawyer who's charging $125 an hour bills you 100 hours for something that should have taken 10 hours. So I think what you, Bernie, are raising is valid, but I think you have to be a little more encompassing in looking at at the legal situation. See, the other point though, I think Bernie, if you're saying there's certain important meetings, listen, Tony, there's a handful of top school board attorneys in the state. We all know pretty much they are 4, 5, 6 firms. Literally one top guy can't be attending 50 meetings for 50 different districts. So I think the other thing is whether the personnel committee, whoever's does it, or Peter, or you, Jerry, is to speak to Tony and say, if you're not, if we're expecting you to be at a meeting and you're not, or you're going to be late, you need to, have your number too. I mean, everyone knows that, the senior person can't be, there present at all the time. So if you're expecting coverage at a meeting, Bernie, and, Tony can't be there, whatever the reason, he's a mature guy, he's good judgment, you have to make sure that there's a trained, seasoned, second seat type of attorney who will come.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say, in terms of Tony, there have been times when yes, he hasn't gotten here. I've spent a lot of time this year looking at his bills. Questions were raised. A big driver in the bills that this district sees is the fairly large, in my experience, number of different items that he gets consulted on. And I think that is something that is driving the amount of legal fees that we incur. I honestly don't think that time spent either by Mr. Scarillo or by his associates on our matters are driving the time. I've seen instances where I've been able to judge, and then I've talked to him and confirmed it, that for example, the hours billed us by Jennifer Osborne are less than the hours I know it would have taken her to do something, where Tony had made a judgment before the bill came to us and said, I'm not going to bill the district for that. And what I want to say is substantively his services. I have worked with a lot of different school board attorneys. I've done some school board attorney work myself with one of the firms I was with in the past, and I'm very satisfied with the services that we're getting. We have had, Bernie's absolutely correct that the last 2 negotiations, when he came very late, Last night, he was at a meeting that should have taken about an hour, and he didn't get out of it until 10 minutes to 12 last night, which was an hour after we finished here. If we had been in a situation where I thought we had needed someone else there in Tony's absence, I would have done what Rob had suggested, which is told Tony ahead of time, if you can't be there, we need somebody else there. I didn't think that was necessary last night.
Peter, I agree that bringing somebody else in at the last minute would be worthless. My point is that maybe he's so popular, maybe he's serving 12 school districts, maybe we could find somebody with similar talent who's serving 6 school districts and could give us a little higher priority. That's my point. And I'm asking, can we try to find somebody like that to maybe try out and phase in the future? That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Well, or Bernie, someone within his firm. I mean, he's got, I don't know, how many lawyers in his firm? But
The lawyers-
more than 20?
No, there's about 80, but in his education group, there's about 16.
Okay, so there's got to be, other people to Bernie's point there. I just say one thing. I think in a positive note, the last 6 months of this year, I venture to say with the use of Tony, I mean, not counting the negotiations, which is a sort of seasonal every 3 or 4 year deal, his utilization has been less than the first 6 months of this year. He's not attending as many meetings as he used to. I think that to credit, because when he attends meetings, it tends to generate work which probably wouldn't have been generated if he wasn't here. And number two, sort of, whether it's fate, the sheriff, whatever you want to call it, in those other situations, where we had legal problems brought by third parties, we haven't had that situation, as much as we did the prior. So I think, there's a certain state you can control it, certain state you can't control it.
We have a motion and second on,
One more,
you had
to
suggested.
Bernie's point, though, about the fact that there's only one rate here versus no paralegals, I'm also a little curious about that one. If there's not any services being done by anybody else at a lower rate or could be done, or is everybody really, are we billed constantly no matter what the service performed is for the 160?
Yeah, but I bet his letter, I mean, every lawyer, and maybe you don't have it, his proposal, I'd be surprised if he didn't have a non-attorney rate, a paralegal rate, or a secretary. I know it's not here, but it's custom that they.
The 160 is a blended rate for associates and for the partner. If you look down, for example, at N, the Skank Price firm, we pay $195 an hour for partners, $165 an hour for associates. The 160 is blended, but to the point that Jerry and Bernie have made, it would be appropriate, I believe, if we asked Tony to give us a paralegal rate, so that to the extent someone in his firm has to end up doing it, we shouldn't even pay.
Has he not given that rate? I'm so surprised. He didn't?
No, he generally
Okay, so I think you should have a, listen, all the other lawyers have a paralegal rate, which is roughly half of their hourly rate. So.
And when he bills an hour for spreadsheet work with his name on it, it kind of raises a question to
We
me.
will ask him for a letter to differentiate those rates.
Right.
We have a motion, it's been moved and seconded for this M.
But you don't have to adopt it this meeting.
Do you want to make a motion to table it?
I mean, I'd like to. I'd like to find out more information about it. There's no reason, there's no pushing matter that this has to be done.
To make the motion.
I'd move that we table
Wait.
this until we get some more additional information.
Jerry.
Or have Tony come in and talk about it.
Jerry, let me ask you, can I just ask about your motion? Is this because you want the second rate, or is that not your issue?
I want to see a breakdown and a second rate there so that we understand what it is we're being billed for when he bills us and what services are being done by others and what rate they're going to charge us for it.
We have a motion to table this particular motion.
I'll second it.
We have a second on that.
Oh, I thought there was a second.
Was it?
Well, you made the motion, Bernie seconded it.
But this is
That's
the
the
motion.
motion
For the
to
table.
table.
This is a motion to table it.
That's right.
Okay, can I get a roll call vote on that motion to table this? All those in favor say aye.
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 That's 1, 2, 3. All those opposed say nay.
No.
Nay.
Nay. Raise your hand, because I got to count 1, 2, 3,
5-4,
all those, 5.
5-5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So it doesn't pass.
What was Lou? I didn't catch that.
He was opposed to tabling the motion.
So that's,
The motion was defeated 5-4, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's, with one abstention. Any abstentions? Laura's abstaining.
okay.
So that's 5-4-1. Motion carries 5-4.
Wait a second, no, the motion to table, we
The
didn't...
motion to table is
pass.
denied.
Okay,
I'm
what-
sorry.
what-
That's right.
Peter, let me just ask this. What about, would you object to a motion that would pass the reappointment, but also ask or request a non-lawyer paralegal rate to be included in his
I
rate?
think we should do that regardless.
Okay, so what,
think
can
we
we...
do that.
Let's do it without a
Well,
rate then.
What?
Let's do it without the rate.
No, and a rate...
The rate
We
has to
can't
be-
put in the rate.
We can't put a rate, he didn't agree to
Oh,
it,
that's
but we assume at a rate to be
We will,
Agreed upon.
agreed upon rate. How about, can we do that?
yes, we can.
Okay, so can I make that motion?
Go ahead.
I just made it.
I'll second it. I know what he said.
All right, wait a minute. We
Yeah,
have a
I need
motion
to know
already
what
on
he said.
we already have a motion on the, we're going to amend the motion.
Yeah, let's amend it, yeah.
Wait, how can we amend? We voted. It's been
No,
passed.
we
No, we didn't.
No, we voted on not
We didn't
tabling
vote
it.
for it.
Voted
Okay.
not to table.
We voted not
Back
to
on
table
that.
it, so we're back on the original motion.
Original
And
motion.
Who moved it originally?
It was
Peter did and I
Peter.
did.
and-
And you seconded. Will you guys be willing to accept that modification? to it?
Yes.
All right, so the modification proposed by Rob has been accepted. Can I get a vote, a
And the
roll call
modification
vote?
would say what? Just
Can
so-
you
Yeah.
restate it? Can you
Include-
restate?
Include a second non-legal, a non-lawyer rate to be agreed upon by the parties.
It could be one or two extra rates.
Yeah, the firm, it's going to be added to the last sentence. We compensate a rate of $160 per hour for said legal fees, which we've broken out to a partner and paralegal rate.
Partner associate.
That's
You
No,
want to
he's-
do
The
it
the
differently?
160 is the blended partner and associate. rate,
Correct.
As per his.
That's the legal
proposal.
rate.
So we're going to add at the end of it
Break
with
it up.
an additional paralegal rate to be agreed upon.
Very simple and very clear.
Okay. Does everybody understand that?
Yeah, I got it.
Can I get a roll call vote on
By
that?
saying so, we also agreed this 160.
Yes,
right.
we're agreeing
correct.
to the 160.
That is the
blended
legal,
rate for the
it's
legal
two rates.
services.
Legal is $160, any lawyer. Tony maybe is $200, his associate is $100. So he's saying, I'm $160, a blended rate, and we're asking for, if it's not a lawyer working on the case, we're designated as a paralegal for a rate to be agreed upon.
Okay. Can I get a roll call vote on that?
Yes. Mr. Binder?
Yes.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mr. Falzarano?
No.
Mrs. Vector?
Yes.
Mr. Horowitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Mandel?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Dr. Seelig?
Yes.
Mr. Sun?
Yes.
Dr. Yagan?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We're down to X, which is the appointment for the 2008-2009 school year. For board positions, for board committees, things like that. By our policy, we need to do two things here. One of which is we need to reestablish the standing committees. By policy, at this meeting, all those standing committees that we have all been associated with are actually dissolved. And so we need to have a motion to reappoint those committees. Now, the second thing is, we're going to have to look to see who's going to become a member of each of those committees. And I would suggest that we not decide that tonight. But you had in your packet a list of all the committees that you are on, or a list of all the committees that everybody is on. And in the, if I can find it, and in the, it looks something like this.
It's, yeah.
So if everybody can pull it out, not that one. It's a list of the committees. And what I'd like you to do, can we get everybody on the same page here? Make sure everybody's got the list of committees. I don't even have mine.
That's it. That's the existing?
Yeah.
Should be a blank.
Oh, seven away.
There should be you should have a blank in your
Blank?
manila. You should have a blank one in your manila envelope also.
No, it looks like that.
Okay?
With the committee, but with no names on it?
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. Here it is. So you should have one that has the names on it, and you should have one that has no names on it. And I don't think we want to get involved in trying to figure out who's going to be on what committee tonight. What I'm going to ask you to do is take the one that has no names on it and write down the committees that you would like to be on, sign it, and give it to me tonight, okay? This isn't real hard to do. So or you can email me your choices over the next couple days. I would suggest that we consider keeping the committee assignments similar to what we've had this year. I think we've had pretty good success. In the meantime, what I would also like to suggest is that we reappoint, basically, we recreate the standing committees, which we have to do by motion, and that everybody who's been on a committee up to now stay on that committee until the next meeting, because we're the same board, we have the same membership, and we'll just keep everything going forward until the meeting on the 19th. If that would be acceptable to everybody, we'll just do that. And in between then, give me your selections, and we'll move some people around on the 19th if necessary. Sound like a plan?
Do you want the motion now?
Well, the only
Yeah, can I
thing-
get a motion to reappoint,
Hold on a
recreate the
second,
stand?
Mr. President.
Could I have two
Just a second.
comments? One is, New Jersey School Board, you have a meeting on the 17th of May, a delegate meeting, so you should have
Sold.
somebody.
So, you got it.
No.
I heard him
I don't know
volunteer.
if he,
Peter, I think, did
I
a
don't know
very
if you
nice
can.
job this year, but you may want to consider having somebody to be appointed to that. And the other thing I would suggest is you may want to think about representatives, because you need board members as CUSAC representatives on a CUSAC committee, because we're going to go for CUSAC this year.
And we will have that by the 19th, 2 weeks from now.
Well, I'm just saying, you may want to look for two
Oh,
following.
Adding
other-
another- he's
other
adding another
assignments.
committee.
Other assignments.
Other assignments, okay.
For CUSAC.
Why don't you write those on your list
I
and
can't
and
find
say we
mine.
need
I don't
those
think
also?
It's in this.
Oh, and then
It's in this.
Oh,
I would then make a
Mozilla.
motion to reappoint the standing committees that have been
there somewhere.
existing up until
If not,
tonight.
Second that.
Any discussion on reappointment or recreation of the standing committees?
just a point of clarification.
No,
That's the
it's not.
standing committees from
I found.
Right here.
finance and operation down?
Just to recreate the committees, that's all.
Right, and the items above that, the representatives that we were just talking about.
Yeah, we'll get to that next.
Okay, gotcha.
We are just recreating our committees.
Understood.
By our own policy, they dissolve as of this meeting, so we have to recreate them.
Right.
All right. Can I get all those in favor of recreating our committees?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, so the committees have been reappointed. Does anybody disagree with the concept of just keeping everybody on the same committee until the 19th, and we'll just go forward with that? Is that all right with everybody?
Yes.
Then I am going to ask you to take a look at the list that we have, so you know what you're on and what you have been on. I think everybody probably knows this because we spend a lot of time doing it. And write down, you can either use this list, I don't care how you do it, or the one that's blank, and write down the committees that you want to be on, and give it to me, or email it to me, okay? And then at the next meeting, we'll try to balance this out and get people reappointed to committees. Think about staying where you are now on committees, because like I said, I think we've been pretty successful this last year with committees.
I would suggest, though, the only thing is negotiations should probably not change.
I would that's,
You know, I would suggest, since we're in the middle of negotiations, you wouldn't want
Right.
to consider that one.
right. Like I said, everything assumes is continuing forward to the 19th, no changes. All right. Now, going back to the top of the list, then, which were representatives for Ed Services Commission, representatives for Somerset, representatives for New Jersey School Board, legislative, and representative for Somerset County. And then, which one did you say was meeting? You said
There's a school-
New Jersey School Board's is meeting, right?
And there's also, I think, a Somerset County dinner in May, I believe.
The Somerset County School Boards Association?
I believe so.
Dinner.
Tim, I'm not sure.
We had, Pete,
Usually
you were on the,
the final week in May, you mean the annual dinner?
Yeah. So, I mean, if
can I just, in the spirit of this continuity, if there's a meeting on the 17th for New Jersey School Board Association, could you attend that for
I
us?
have to let you know tomorrow morning or later tonight. I just don't
Okay.
know that date.
If you could do that, I'm going to default to you on that unless you say you can't do it, and then we'll reappoint somebody else. Jerry volunteered once, so.
I'm not the Green Book person. I couldn't do it last time because I was a Green Book person.
That's right.
And Pete, you and Eric were the Somerset County School Board Association. Sounds like you can, okay. Do you want to just continue with that also? Because these are ones that Jerry has mentioned are pending something happening. All right, we'll keep those two the same, if that's all right with you.
I don't know the date.
Pete, if you could let me know about the 17th, okay, tonight or tomorrow, that would be fine. All right, with that, again, please go through the list, write down your selections, get it back to me. You can email it to me, or you can just do it right tonight, just leave it for me right here, okay?
Could we move C
We're going to.
You generally
We did, when we voted for it. But we don't, I'm
It's
sorry,
just the
motion for
committees.
what?
I thought you voted on the standing committees,
We did.
and then I didn't hear a motion on
On the appointment?
the appointment.
We haven't done that yet. We'll do that at the next meeting, okay? I would like to move, okay, we're now going to move on to the regular business meeting, and actually in advance of that meeting starting, I would like to suggest that we have on our agenda a motion which is C-16 and C-17, which are the appointment of Dr. Rader as the interim superintendent due to the absence of Dr. Stromson, who's on a medical leave. I'd like to move those up now so we could ask Bob to come up and join us, rather than having him sit in the audience waiting. Okay? Would that be acceptable to everybody? Can I get a motion on that?
I'd like to move C-16 and C-17. It would be my privilege to move C-16 and C-17.
Can I get a second on that? Got a second? From Laura? From Laura? Can I get a roll call vote on
Why you
that?
here?
Do I have any discussion
Why
on
is he
16?
showing up tonight?
Do I have any discussion on 16 and 17?
I assume he meets all the qualifications.
That was funny,
Can we
Jerry.
get coffee?
Can I get a roll call vote?
Mr. Binder?
Yes.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mr. Falzarano?
I do not wish to vote. And will not vote.
Ms. Fechner?
Yes.
Mr. Horowitz?
Yes.
Ms. Mandel?
Yes.
Ms. Pepe?
Yes.
Mr. Sun?
Yes.
Dr. Yaggett?
Yes.
Dr. Seelig?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Come on, Dan.
Come on. You can join us now.
Yes.
Okay. Since you're the interim now, do you have any comments?
I know, thank you. It's good to be back.
Okay. I have one comment, just to explain a little bit why Dr. Rader's here.
He's on down. I'll hold it.
For those of you who are not aware of it, Dr. Stromson had a back surgery on Monday of this week. She's at home recovering. Looks like things are going and proceeding smoothly. She'll be out for a period of time, probably in the range of a couple weeks to 4 to 6 weeks, during which time Dr. Rader will be sitting in and serving as our interim superintendent. So she's out on medical leave, and as it said in the motion, for those of you who are not aware of that. And we wish her well.
You did pass a note around, so for
Yeah,
those
she
who
did.
didn't get the note,
Well, we'd like
flowers and
to-
plants were sent.
I would like to thank Laura for organizing a gift of the plant that we got to her today. I don't know, Sandy, if you had some involvement in that also, but I do appreciate that. Thank you.
My pleasure.
With that, we can move on to business administrator comments.
Thanks, Mr. President. I have just two. I'll try to keep them short. Just a reminder now that we are in a new, I guess, a new board, even though we're the same one. Laura and Eric, you are second-year first-termers, so you will have to complete some training this year in accordance with the new laws. Nothing's out yet for the 08-09 year. It's a course on district governance. So when we get the information, we'll send that to you. And the newly re-elected board members have to take an additional training. You know who you are.
Does that cover me? I mean, I'm in my second term at Greenbrook, so I cover it there, right? But not,
Yeah, you'll have to check on. You're a little different.
my first year or...
You can always take it at your own option, though. You know.
You're an appointed
Tim,
person here,
if
you're
you
elected
like go
there,
to
so
the
go with your
convention, you
elected
take a course
position.
there and that covers it?
That's a good question, because I think last time they did have the
Did, right?
advanced board member training there.
Yeah.
I haven't seen we just got notification today of the convention, which, by the way, is limited in terms of days. You're only allowed to get reimbursed for 2 days now, and the conference is a little shorter than it usually
Mine
is.
is my 2 days away, so that's
But anyway, so when the training comes out,
Okay.
we'll keep you posted on that. The other item I just wanted to briefly discuss is some recent articles on the turf fields and the safety of them. We did see some information. We did get some information from the state of New Jersey on how to monitor and how to review the safety of the fields. The issue is lead in some of the fields that they had found. Some of the fields that they did find, I can tell you they were older fields, and the turf itself had lead in it. Ours, we got a letter from our manufacturer. It's a basic letter, but ours, in a sense, is not one of the older ones. We do have to review a little further. We are looking with our attorney just to look at this letter and some of the information from the state. We're talking to a couple other business administrators and some of the folks from the other schools. So we will keep you posted on that, but we are trying to follow up and make sure that the field is indeed safe. Based on the letter, by the way, everything appears to be safe. You know, again, I can't issue a guarantee, but we're looking into it.
No, I just wanted to thank you for researching this issue and to, urge you to stay on top of it, as I know that you will. It's always concerned me because I know that whenever, you're on the turf field, the football turf field, you come back and there's like these little black pellets on the bottom of your shoes. And I always wonder, it's probably petroleum base or whatever, and I just always, does it get into your lungs or, where's, it's off and, it comes off of the field. And it's always been a concern of mine. And then when I saw those articles in the paper, I'm really glad that that you brought it up, and it's something that a district that we just need to be on top of, as information comes out about the different turf fields.
I might restate more emphatically that our surface is not the surface that was losing lead in the Newark area.
Right.
That was a nylon-based field. Ours is rubber that has been frozen, broken down, and recycled. So we're not part of that investigation, but we want to verify that the coloring in our field and so on does not contain harmful chemicals. So
is it a natural rubber or a synthetic rubber? Or
it's rubber tires, recycled rubber tires.
Okay.
It's like in playgrounds.
Exactly.
Okay. It's like what?
Playground.
But I mean, potentially there could be some other issue, so
That's
we just
exactly
had
right.
something
That's
that
why
we
we
really
need
have
to
to be on
investigate
top
further.
of.
Okay. Thanks. Any other
Yeah,
comments?
that's it.
Okay, with that, we can move on to principals' comments. Dr. Duganski.
Good evening, everybody. As you've probably heard by now, our robotics team went down to Atlanta in the Nationals and got into the quarterfinals, I should say. They were chosen as part of an alliance, got into the quarterfinals, and when it all came out, they are in the top 40 out of about 350 teams that participated from throughout the world. That's tremendous. And I know, Mr. Fallon, they very much appreciated your email. They very much appreciated that. And I got an email today. They're starting anew for next year already. So there's no rest for the weary. And while the robotics team did a great job in Atlanta, our chess team did a tremendous job in North Carolina, taking 10th place in the national championships. That's not bad. And as you probably know by now, the APs begin in another 4 days. Ms. Gannon, who's retired since February 1st, I got on the phone and prayed, would you please come back, because she did such a wonderful job with the AP program. It takes 4 of us to do the program now. And it starts on Monday, and by 2 weeks from tomorrow, 778 exams would have been administered to about 440 some odd kids. Not odd kids, 440 kids. So that's nice. Next week is National Teacher Appreciation Week, and that's a fun week. The ASC on Monday and Tuesday provides breakfast on Monday, Tuesday ice cream for all the staff members. On Wednesday in our faculty meeting, we salute all of our teachers, and especially Janet Wernick, who is our Teacher of the Year. And on Thursday, the PTO has a wonderful breakfast, brunch in the morning, so if you can make it. They start doing it on Wednesday, Tuesday evening decorating, and then Wednesday evening decorating, Thursday breakfast in the North Cafeteria. And then Friday, the ASC have a number of gifts to give out to the staff. In 2 weeks, we have the Festival of the Arts, which will run for 4 days, and all of the fine and performing arts, that'll be dance, video, theater, photography, paint will be on display in the atrium area, down the halls by the theater, and in the north cafeteria. And our Somerset County banquet was held last evening at Doubletree. All the county Somerset athletes were acknowledged for their accomplishments as athletes and as academicians. And ours were Jessica Zigarelli, who played both volleyball and basketball, and James Morrow, who played both football as well as basketball. So it's been quite an active month. Thank you, Dr. Seeley.
Thank you. I had the pleasure of watching the robotics competition online for a few minutes. It was broken video, but nonetheless, it was kind of fun to watch it while it's been going on in Atlanta. Pretty incredible. The student representatives are not here this evening. We'll move on. If they do show up, we'll come back to them. Let's move on to committee reports. I have finance and operations here. Is having had a committee meeting?
We have one.
Okay. You want to start with you?
Yeah. We spent most of the time dealing with the cafeteria operations, and I guess one of the concerns, we don't know at this point which direction, right, Tim, that we're going to maintain what we have this year, the multiple lunches or the 45-minute periods. One of the things that we are looking into was the issue of whether we have the right food mix, and probably the biggest issue is to really drive up sales, especially when you have, what do we have, a 22-minute lunch period now? Is that what it is? 20?
20, yes.
23, 24, something?
Yeah.
We need to get that, I call it the debit card, the card that the kids can buy and put money in, because it serves, it's to this point, this is, I think, we're the second year we've had it, and I think we have, what do you say, is it 10%?
It's about 15.
15%. It's a very low utilization rate, and really the double benefit of increasing the utilization is to, number one, will be to increase, it will increase the sales. You know, did he, now I just remember, did he get you the information from Hunterdon Central?
I didn't get that yet, but I did get 2 promotions that they're looking to.
Because what we wanted to do, Hunterdon Central has a pretty good penetration rate. I thought he said it was over 60%.
I think it was higher than
that.
That's what they were
what we really want to do, Hunterdon Central is a larger school than us, and they have a very good, I call it the debit card program. So we want to find out, what's Hunterdon Central, 2,600 kids?
Close to 3, right? Close to 3,000?
Whatever it is. So if their cafeteria sales are $1,200,000 a year, divide that by the 3,000. We want to get a sense of, how much each kid is spending in the cafeteria, and we assume, I think it's a pretty good assumption, if they have 70-80% penetration on this debit card, and conversely we're at 10%, and we divide the number of kids we have here, 2,100 kids divided by $600,000, that's, I don't know, it's $300 a kid, whatever the math comes. If we're at $300 and Hunterdon Central is at, $550 per kid, and it's the same company serving really the same type of food, something's wrong, because there's no reason why, at least on a per capita basis, we shouldn't be comparable. So that's the data we want to find out, because as we stand now, we might break even. Might break even on the cafeteria, although if you look at the latest figures that is in the package, and this is we had $368,000 of sales, but really you got to take out the catering because it's not a cash sale, just for point of cash. So it's $350,000, and we're at $350,000 of expenses before we get to the district payroll, and that's the people who we hire, not them. So that would be a $23,000 loss. So as of February, in a term of cash operations, the cafeteria's lost $23,000. And so you have March, April, May, part of June, 4.5 months. That certainly, could grow to somewhere probably, I'd say, between $40,000 and $50,000. And that's a cash loss that has to be subsidized or reimbursed by the operating expenses. So the goal really for next year is to ensure that the cafeteria operations, run on a at least a break even, but more hopefully a profitable. Two other things that we're going to be looking into just very briefly. Number one is the issue with the facility of whether or not it makes sense to further investigate and explore the cell tower situation. We're going to bring the Axis, excuse me, such a terrible name, Axis, not from the axis of evil, the axis of cell towers, to our finance meeting. I think Tim said that already the proposed agreement has been sent to Tony to take a look at. And the other thing we want to do, we've engaged. I think the Athletic Foundation has engaged someone, a person whose job it is will be to sell signage on the baseball field. Is that right, Tim?
Yeah, we do have a person that's working with the foundation. That's correct.
So we want to really. There's no reason that we shouldn't have that expanded to cover the football field. In probably in most ways, if you're a potential advertiser, you'd rather. It's a better opportunity putting your placard on the football field, since it gets more utilization, more people are seeing it, than down on the baseball field. So those are two areas we want to move ahead with: cafeteria, the signage, cell tower issues going forward, and probably in a substantive issue to really in the coming year. We've talked about this so much. Is looking at the whole busing issue. So I know, several years ago there was it seemed a policy or decision to engage more in outsourcing of busing, and it appears that it's creeping back towards internal generation or internal transportation. As you see on the agenda tonight, there are 2 more buses. That's in addition. Didn't we buy 4 last year, Bob?
The buses on the agenda are replacement buses.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, did we buy 4 last year?
I thought you bought 2.
Was it 2?
You had a recommendation, and you ended up with...
Maybe even before you.
The year before, though, didn't we do a lease purchase?
A couple more. So now I know there's some replacement, but basically it's a big issue. We've never really carefully looked at it. It's one of the largest expenses in our budget. It's probably north of $2 million a year. So that really deserves a lot of attention because it's, for all the costs associated. So that, in a nutshell, Paul, the things that we'll be looking to do.
Okay. Any questions?
Not a question. I just wanted to add to let the board know. In some of our discussions with Pomptonian that morning, one of the things they told us about is they've been meeting with Dr. DeGancy in terms of getting ready so that if we're able to go to the rotating drop schedule next year with a longer lunch period, that they'll be able to man that. They also raised with us the possibility that if we were to go to that, they would be suggesting back to the board that the cafeteria be open longer hours than just lunchtime. From their point of view, primarily to be able to drive some sales up. And they gave us some examples of some other schools that have one common lunch, long period. They actually open the cafeteria in the morning, generate some sales. It's also helpful in some of those schools with the way the teachers are available for their lunch breaks, because sometimes they're needed for duties on our lunch, so they can't eat then. It's a matter that's going to have to be discussed with Tom DeGancy and his people as to that, because right now we have a policy about no food other than in the cafeteria.
And I think after school as well, Pete.
Yeah.
Also, one other thing it brings to mind, Lou, they again raise this issue of wiring in the cafeterias that they're unable. We talked about, for example, they said they'll take a look at it, especially in the warmer months. Frozen yogurt machine. So, but they brought up again, I don't know whether it was from the frying machines, whatever, that there's an issue, I think it's the main cafeteria. We've had this now for a couple of years. There needs to be some electrical work done. So if we want to add some of this equipment, which, could hopefully drive up some sales. Are you aware of that stuff?
Yeah, some of the power's there. It's just getting it installed in those locations.
So it's running wires and...
Yeah, it's running a service to where they need it. And there's a lot of power in that area. It's just, they have to specify the exact power needed for the equipment that they have.
Okay.
And then Russ and his guys can find a way to get it there.
Can you ask them to specify, when they talk about power, what they need, and then...
Well, they're talking about running some power down to the gym 5-6.
Yeah, that's
rubber gym.
Yeah, that's a whole different issue.
But I thought within the cafeteria itself.
That south cafeteria, there's a lot.
No, just to see what the requirement is, and then you go do it. Or see what it entails. So maybe for the next school year, we could have that done if there's a need.
Yeah, no.
That's all. So that's it.
Okay. Any other comments? Can we move on to negotiations? Or any other questions, I should say?
Personnel. Personnel.
Did personnel meet?
We did meet.
Personnel? You
Yes.
should have had an asterisk next to it. So-
Yeah, I understand. I was going to wait.
Go ahead, you're on.
We met, and I think a lot of the conversation concerned positions that some of them are on the agenda for this evening. Some of them involve renewals or non-renewals of certain staff members, and I don't want to. We can talk about some of that discussion, which is more privileged and I think confidential in executive session setting. Some of the things that were not, though, is we talked about Dr. Rader coming on board, and we see him here. So that's one thing. We have a need to advertise Mr. Stye's contract by law. It's an annual contract, so we need to make sure that gets on the agenda 30 days notice. I think Tim was talking about looking for whether we need to do Dr. Strom's one, but I believe in the past we didn't because that's not up for renewal and it's continuation, but I think we're going to verify whether or not that is the case.
I did verify that the county superintendent, my contract has to go to her before the board approval. But now the executive county superintendent has to review that. She verified that, part of that.
Okay. I think the other thing was that, without getting again into various individuals which were talked about, is whether we riced all the teachers for this meeting. We said we wanted to do that, so
yes, they
in
were.
case anybody, so that has been done. So later on, when we talk about various agenda items, I'd just like to leave it at that and not get too detailed. Sandy was there and Bernie was there also. I'm not sure if there's anything they want to.
That was all in the agenda. What was the pertinent points are in the agenda.
Any questions? Let's move on to negotiations. Pete, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, we had another negotiation session with the teachers yesterday. We had agreed at the beginning to confidentiality. That's still in place. Relations are very, very cordial. Things are proceeding nicely, and I can tell the board more about it during the executive session on negotiations.
Okay. With that, any questions on that? Good. Let's move on to buildings and grounds. Thank you. Buildings and grounds.
Okay.
This could take a while.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let me hit on a few other items before we go into that, the office area. The pit lift issue, we're still waiting DCA final review on that. Front floor is still moving forward. We had some sprinkler issues, and they're being discussed between Russ and Don Fiore on how to handle sprinklers, head here, head there, that were found on the fire inspection. There was an emergency egress lighting inspection, but what we're finding is that the DCA has sent some new people here who aren't familiar with the project, which are coming in and say, well, you're not ready, or this is missing, that's missing, and we're reinventing the wheel. So we took a step back and spoke to John Mallon to make sure that we try to get the same individuals coming back here so we don't have those problems. Nickerson, who's the locker company, there's a number of locker issues. They're going to come in over the summer and take care of those. The TV studio plans were released by the DCA, and we're going to start getting pricing for that minor hallway work that has to be done. A drop ceiling has to go in and some fire dampers, and then we can open the TV studio. We continue to work with McQuay and the other HVAC outfits to continue the ongoing balancing and control issues that keep cropping up. So we involved Chris Bick now is going to start coming in and giving us a report at least every other meeting on what's going on the outside, so we can stay up with that. He did discuss at the one board meeting about the where the buses park out front along the driveway, getting the sidewalks fixed and the driveway fixed there, because over the winter we had some issues with snow and the kids walking in the snow to get on the buses, and it was hazardous. So he's working on getting that done, looking at an existing maintenance budget to see if we can work that out. Those are those items. Now, I have to apologize. This is the way the office bid proposal should have came to us last meeting. With the layout in your blue notes, you got a diagram of the two office spaces we're going to go out for bid with, which should be the last three pages.
Does everybody have a copy of that?
Please. And they're broken down into two areas. The existing area where Fran currently is, the superintendent office. There's a layout there of her office, a small meeting room, a work area, a waiting area, the assistant superintendent. There's also the secretarial offices for the two superintendents. Most of this work, in fact, in both areas, the primary work is HVAC and sprinkler. The walls are basically metal stud and sheetrock, so there's very little work physically in those spaces other than putting up some walls to partition off the spaces. They're going to change the rooftop HVAC units that are quite old in that area and rework the ductwork and all. So that's the majority of the cost in that front corner.
And anyone who's met with Fran in her office this winter will understand the reason for needing to redo the HVAC in there.
Yeah, and they're going to do
Chilly.
Yeah, and we're going to try and do something with the weatherproofing on the windows because they are kind of drafty. But any questions on this layout here? We'll start with that. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I don't know if it's for you, but it's more of an administrative question. There's superintendent, assistant, and then there's two secretarial rooms. Do we know who's going to be there, or we're just assuming that
Yes.
we have space and, okay.
Those are, in those two, are going to be, Dot's going to be in one of them. And is Karen in the other?
Yeah, it's Karen.
Oh, so, okay, so we have...
They're occupied,
okay.
yes.
That answered my... so we have Fran and then Bev,
Right.
and then
Yes,
Dot, and
that's
then...
right.
That's
Karen.
right.
Okay,
Dot and Karen.
okay.
Any other
We
questions?
want to be more together.
Sounds good.
Any other questions on that?
That's right.
All right. So,
There is, Lou, just
go
for
ahead. Yeah.
purposes of the board, there is a larger drawing of the entire two rooms and how
So
they,
you can relate from
you
one
can
to
relate
the
how,
other.
where the offices will be. If anybody wants to see that,
Hop,
please let
skip,
me
and a
know.
jump from each other.
I'd be happy to pass it.
And then the second area, which is across the hall, just so you know, we've had an ongoing water issue in this area. During the project, Don has investigated and isolated that leak, and it'll be handled in the redesign of this space. Again, most of this work is HVAC and sprinkler. Because once you divide up a space, you have to bring the sprinkler heads into that space and the HVAC, which is air and heat. And there's a number of wall spaces that have to be made, and again, that's metal partitions, metal studs and sheetrock. There'll be some minor electrical for wall plugs and some computer cabling for computer access and phones. And we talked about this quite a bit in B&G on how it works. There was a lot of thought in Tim and his staff and also Fran on how both spaces would work, and they were happy with the way they were laid out. That's pretty much this space, and Tim would be down in the back left corner. Tim, you want to go through the people that are sitting in the different spaces?
Essentially, the assistant deanas will be next to me. Next to Dina is the two payroll-related positions, payroll and payroll benefits coordinator. So it's good to have those two together. And then the accounts receivable, accounts payable clerks will be at the end. We tried to leave enough space for filing and storage because that's always a big issue with up in the business office because we do love paper. As much as we think it's a paperless society, we're very far from it, unfortunately. The proximity to the superintendent's office is going to be the biggest benefit, and obviously the fact that my entire office staff will be in one area, which is much better than it is now, which is a problem when you're all over the building.
Entire staff?
Entire.
Oh, entire.
Entire staff, not my tire staff.
And what this also, it'll also relieve the spaces along the wall here for instructional purposes now instead of office placing. And you can have individual work areas for teachers one-on-one. One suggestion that was brought up, and I think everybody was in favor of it, was the back corner here, the larger of the rooms, was creating a computer lab workstation area with a number of computer stations around the whole room to allow students to come in and work on projects or whatever. And that has to,
If I could just interject, that was actually a suggestion that came through the Ed Council from the teachers as something to help make the library more useful.
Right. And what's nice about it is the tech room is right in this back corner here. So it's an easy access point for all the network and computer equipment. But I believe it does have to go through county approval and things like that. So it was a suggestion. Everybody liked it. We're going to look into how to pursue that. So,
this can be done this summer, though?
What, these two spaces? Yes.
The two spaces, not necessarily changing this
So, I
summer,
mean,
because that's
when
got to get county approval before it does.
Well, these have approval.
All these spaces
No,
here.
I meant the
Yeah.
one.
Not the computer lab. Yes, that's correct.
This
The
is
small group instruction.
unrelated to the original construction.
Yes, yes.
So you have to go out to bid on this?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
That's the last meeting, he was asking for that approval to go out to bid.
An authorization to go out to bid on this
Right.
project.
Is the documentation ready for you to do that?
Yes.
But this is the way we should have presented it, and I have to apologize for that. And from now on, that's the way this will come to us. No longer. And then we also have the conceptuals there for the spaces down the hall where the old superintendent's area was and all, to create the classrooms.
That's the old,
What kind of classrooms? You know?
off the top of my head, I don't know.
Are they SGIs or
I think there's, no, I think
Yeah.
they're regular.
full-size
I think
classrooms?
the regular
Yeah,
classes.
Yeah.
these are.
Six of them.
But again, that's a
5,000 square
conceptual,
feet.
These are small.
So are they
it
all
can be
windowless?
worked on.
I'm sorry?
Are they windowless?
Yes.
Well, in this area,
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
is,
Okay.
There are no windows in that
Yeah,
area.
yeah, yeah.
period.
Is Spiesel is doing the classrooms and Heinz Fior is doing the other
No.
stuff?
That's an
That
old
was
concept drawing.
a
That's-
while
This is a
back.
concept drawing,
A while back, we had them do those conceptuals.
So is Heinz Fior doing the whole
Yes.
thing?
Heinz
Yeah.
Flores in the,
Right. So.
this
you
is
know,
all kind of conceptual, one project.
So right now,
We're in the first phase of it. This
the bids Tim and us are looking for are the two office spaces up front to get these moving for the summer. And the sooner he gets them out, as soon as school closes, he can get people in here to start working on them. Like I said, the biggest is ordering the HVAC units to make sure they're here in time. But most of the work inside can be done relatively easy. So there's no ordering process in that.
This is a little different from the one we saw. I think he did a couple tweaks in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the building and grounds went over in detail, and I think, you know, we asked a lot of these questions, and then there were a couple areas we just twisted or tweaked a little bit, and I think that's what you're seeing here, which is a good product.
Okay. Any other questions? Laura?
Yeah, I just have a request with those classrooms that are windowless, that they be painted, you know, either bright color, that there's adequate lighting.
That's not part
that-
of this.
That's not part of that?
That's
phase
that's
two
what
next
we're
year.
trying to, everyone was questioning what was going to happen down there. We brought that out so everybody could get an idea of what it might look like. It's
So how
not-
far down the road is that?
Hopefully we can get it into next year's budget.
Hopefully to do it next year.
Hopefully,
We'll see
yeah.
what the budget says.
Yeah.
So how is that space going to be
Right
used
away,
this-
you're going to, these items, these areas will open up. The small group instruction areas will have access to those.
But these are necessary for student growth coming about 2 years from now.
Right.
Right.
And it's a process because you got to get county approval for those spaces and all. So once we get them
Right.
cleared out, then we can start the process of requesting that. And then once we get it requested, then we can create the space and then go out for bids again like we're doing here.
Any questions on that? Okay, you'll see a motion on that, to request to go out to bid. Thank you. Later on. Thank you. We also met in policy. Let me just give you a brief overview of what we discussed in policy. We had really three main, let me just make sure I'm right. Four main topics, one of which was facilities use, one of which was the board committees and our bylaws. We talked about the employment of teaching staff members. That has to do with the nepotism clause, and then the one about no child left behind complaints. And we'll see some of these policies coming forward at the next meeting for first read. We won't see the first one, which I mentioned, was facilities use. Facilities use policy is being really re-looked at pretty carefully by the policy committee. One of the things that we've done is we've taken a look at the cost of operations. We've taken a look at the cost of operations of the fields, cost of maintenance of those fields, cost of replacement of the fields, trying to come up then with the utilization rate of the high school, and then looking at how that's actually utilized in by external groups to try to come up with some idea of what might be a reasonable and a fair reimbursement or fair charge out for the use of the field that would be beyond that which we would normally. I mean, the fact is most of the high school, most of the field use is done by the high school. I mean, we use the fields probably the greatest percentage of the time, certainly the greatest percentage of the time, probably 80 to 90%. But we're going to find out what that number is, and that will then be used by us to try to figure out then what is the reasonable charge-out rate. We are going to go meet with the communities, the rec groups, and for the directors of recreation, I guess, in the various towns to try to get their input into this process also. So we're starting to reach out to the communities to try to get some input into that process to determine their thoughts on it and how we want to make sure that what we're doing is aligned with what they're doing and what their thoughts are also. Certainly we are sensitive and aware of the need to make sure that whatever we do is supportive of the communities. They are our biggest, I mean, they do pay for the cost of the high school. We'll make sure that what we're doing is supporting that. But we'll also make sure that the costs of the school are fair to what's being used to educate our high school students here and not subsidizing or supporting necessarily other costs that go outside of that that is unfair to, from a representation of what the costs of the school are. We talked also in the facilities use about some signage in terms of making sure that only people that are supposed to be using the facility are actually up here using it. So some signage, putting some signage up that is posted to talk about if you're going to be up here using the fields, you have to have a permit. Now, we're not talking about one or two persons that come up here to use the field. Like if I come up here or if you come up here to walk around the track, we're not expecting people to have permits or anything like that. But if you're a group that comes up here on a regular basis, then we are talking about those people having to have permits to come on and use the fields. We then also talked about the bylaws, which had to do with board committees. This had to do with a discussion that came up at the last meeting. It had to do with the kind of the relationship of the committees to the full board, if you remember the discussion, and how we were bringing information to the board. And part of what Lou was alluding to is what the right way to do it was to brought drawings and things like that to the board so we could have had concept discussions in advance of then taking things out for bid. We realized one of the things that we talked about, I think this was the sentiment of the board at the time of the last meeting, was that we have board committees, and those board committees really are created by the board. The purpose is to do the research and investigation of a lot of details and issues that are going to come forward, and we want to make sure then, as it's understood, that those committees don't make the decisions, but they do provide that initial review, making sure that the proposals coming forward are thorough and complete, and that we also then, those committees have the responsibility to communicate that information to the full board in sufficient time for everybody in the full board to come to full grips with it and understand what it is that they might be voting on or what the issues might be. And so that was one of the, that was really the purpose of that discussion, which was, it's not so much that we need to change a policy, it's a realization as a board that our committees, which we know serve a valuable purpose, have to also make sure they communicate their information appropriately and quickly to the full board. We also talked about the nepotism policy. The wording in that is difficult, not impossible. We are rewriting that wording. It's standard writing, and we're going to take that, probably apply, once we get the writing down on that and the wording on that nepotism clause, we'll probably apply that back to the previous policy that we passed that had to do with nepotism. But the issue there has to do with the phrase reemployment. And so we're trying to clean up that and make sure that's right. We'll have a proposal, I think, at the next meeting. I spent some time over that the last. We tried to rewrite it with the policy committee, and we got to the right concepts, but we just had to put it in the final words. No child, and then we didn't have we had talked about the need to look at No Child Left Behind, but it turns out we're not a Title I district, and it's a mandated policy, so it was one of those policies that we don't have to consider anymore. So the good news is we got rid of one that we don't have to worry about. There are a couple, we did not get a chance to talk about equal employment opportunity, which has words in there that we were concerned about the last time. That's why it got pulled. I've rewritten that. We'll talk about that at the next policy committee meeting. We're also in the process of looking at foreign exchange policies from Strauss Esme. If you remember, there was we get requests to take on foreign exchange students, and we don't have any policy that helps guide us on that. So we're going to be looking at developing a policy on that. The policy committee discussions have become rather active and vigorous, particularly around the topic of facilities use, as you can imagine. So if anybody else on the committee has any contributions they want to throw in at this point in time, if I've missed something, feel free. Anybody? Lou? Pete? Laura? You guys are like strikingly quiet right now.
The rain.
No, obviously, you said that there's a lot more work to be done on some of the policies, particularly the facilities use, which is going to be ongoing.
We will keep working facilities use until we figure out what the right balance is. At least it's an active discussion. Okay. Any questions on the policies? We have no policies tonight. Given that this is a fairly full agenda, we thought it would be better not to bring policies forward to you at this meeting. Do we have anything on community relations and business? Did you meet?
Yes,
okay.
We did. We met on April 9th, and it was myself, Sandy, Tom, and Fran. And that was pre-budget, before the election, so we started off with promoting the budget, and that there were some email blasts that did go out to the parent community, or whoever signs up, not just parents, but other students and so forth sign up to get the emails generated from the high school email blasts. We discussed that, getting the information out on the website, and also Fran and Tim went out and visits with the towns, and I think we're successful in reaching out to all the towns, minus some in Long Hill didn't work out at that particular time. But so that was I think with the budget. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. We came up with, we discussed a statement regarding the tile floor, which will be done over the summer, which is very, very simple. Due to poor workmanship, the tile floor in the entrance of the high school will be replaced over the summer break. The cost will be billed back to the original contractor. So just a simple statement, and I know, so if anybody has any feedback that they want to add to it.
Are
Okay.
you proposing that be put on our website, or just for the board members from a communication standpoint?
I think that would be a great idea to get that on the board, on the website. I think however we can promote that so everybody knows what's happening. But also, I think, I said that it should go out to all the board members in our packet so that we all, have the same statement that we know what's, happening here. We did discuss the facility use policy and the implications in the community, and the importance of making sure that things are done equitably, and that the various community groups will be able to use the facilities, obviously after the high school needs are met. We discussed the rotating drop in terms of arranging student information sessions, and Tom and Terry McConnell will be going into the English classes and social studies classes. Actually, right about now, probably this, should have started, and I guess going into next week and the week after, so that all the freshmen, sophomores, and juniors will have a chance to hear what's happening with the rotating drop directly from them, and have an opportunity to ask questions and have any of their questions answered. We discussed the August mailing, the parent mailing that goes out, and that would actually be a great, that is the best opportunity to get information out to the parents. And that is really the time, for example, if you want to get more information out about the cafeteria debit card, that is the time to, to set up a good flyer and get that out to the parents. And I would think that, if the placement is good and the information is clear, that we could get our percentages, way up there. But we can talk about that in subsequent meetings.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
We also, it was a very busy, very active, busy meeting. We discussed summer reading, which Will Ross was at the meeting, at that part of the meeting, and had put a lot of work into revamping the summer reading program. There was also a parent who provided some significant input. Carol Fitzgerald, who works in the publishing industry, gave very comprehensive information to Will, and he went through all that, and with his English teachers came up with a new summer reading program, which next year all the students will be reading one mandatory book, and then there will be an optional book. There will be a suggested list, and the AP students will read 2 additional books. Okay. So that information is out. And I had spoken about a project that I was working on through the Community Relations Committee with the other schools. A program called Habitat for Our Vets. And that we all got together. It was the PTOs and the Nike Club from the high school, and the PTOs and the community service clubs and the student government clubs from the middle schools all got together. Everybody collected different items that were requested from the Lions Veterans Hospital in Basking Ridge. And we had, like a little room full of items, everything from toothbrushes to body lotion and playing cards and Sudoku books, all kinds of things that they requested. And I just want to thank all the people that were involved in that at the high school level. Colleen Roon, who's the advisor of the Nike Club, Pam Sasso in the office. And then from the middle schools, I wanted to thank all the middle schools for getting involved in that. We went over there, we donated the items. At the VA hospital, I want to thank Mary Beth Hynofsky for organizing it, Lena Thorson, and a woman, Ricky Brinkley, who gave us a tour, and we met with the students that were there. There were students from each of the towns except for Greenbrook, who were able to meet with the veterans, and we sat down and had a little session with them, and it was really, really heartwarming and terrific. And the other thing that I just wanted to mention is that with the 50th anniversary committee, the sock hop is this Friday, May 2nd, tomorrow night. So if anybody is interested, I know that Dot is doing a great job coordinating that. So, and that's, any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Pete?
Laura, first I want to say thank you. I also just want to remind everybody that this is our first meeting since the budget passed, and I think in the concept of community relations, we want to thank the public of the 3 towns for their support for the budget this year. I think it reflected, in part at least, the attitude that this board has taken towards trying to keep expenditures under control and watching things very carefully. I think it also reflects the outreach that the various members of the board made to their own seniors communities in each of the 3 towns. And so I thank the board members for taking the time to do it. I think all those things contributed to the passing of the budget, and I think it's a really wonderful thing that all 3 towns passed our budget this year. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions for Laura at this time? Okay. Laura, thank you very much for all your work.
Oh, one other thing. With the summer reading, the PTO is looking into some kind of program to coordinate summer reading books. So look for that. Look for that coming up.
Great. Any other comments or questions on that? Okay, with that, we can close our committee reports. It allows us now to move on to our first opportunity for public comment. If you're in the public and you wish to make a comment, please come up to the podium. This is a videotape session that will allow us to hear your comments accurately, as well as whoever's in the going to view the videotape. You have 5 minutes. Give us your name and address before you start. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Mupo. I'm the president of the Watchung Hills Wrestling Association, and I come to you and I thank you today, Mr. President, members of the board. I come to you today as a concerned taxpayer, as a concerned parent, and also as the president of the Wrestling Association. And I noticed that you spoke about the evolving policy, and I'm so happy to hear that's an evolving policy about the facilities use fees. And before we move any further, I just want to volunteer to help settle that policy before it comes in to tax me here. But I just want to talk to you a little bit, just introduce myself as well as our program. And I've been in front of other boards on a similar issue. But I represent the Watchung Hills Wrestling Association, a small group of parents and children. Approximately, we have at any given time maybe 65 to 70 kids between the ages of 2nd to 8th grade, and about 20 kindergarten and first graders. Represent about 60 families in the towns that support the school. And most of what we do is we run, obviously, a recreation wrestling program that supports the high school program in many different ways. So as part of the support to the high school program, I was asked if we could run an open mat for this particular season after the high school season was over, and put in the paperwork, because we use our insurance to help support the high school program for this particular activity. It was mostly for the high school kids, but there would be other kids that would be involved in it. And I got a note back that, the days that we requested were accepted, but I'd have to pay $1,100 to use the facility for those, I guess it was 5 or 6 weeks. So I said, being a CPA and a tax lawyer myself by trade, I did some calculations and found that if in fact I was going to be charged for my program on that same rate, it would cost me, and not me, but my 60 families, somewhere in the neighborhood of $12,000 to run the practices for the recreation wrestling, which would be, would put our small club out of business. So I just want to just raise that issue with the board and realize that it's we've been doing this for about 9 or 10 years. I've been doing it for 9 or 10 years, and before that, I don't know how long it's been going on. But we're a nonprofit organization. And normally, our particular function would be handled by the recreation functions in the individual communities. Well, because of the regional nature of the school, not a single recreation facility could handle the wrestling activities, since, again, it's a small community and very successful program, but we have to have all the kids together in order to run the program. So we can't have Warren Recreation running a wrestling program, Watchung Recreation running a wrestling program, Long Hill running a wrestling program, and Greenbrook running a wrestling program, because we'd have 3 or 4 kids from each community. So when we band together, we have a very, very successful program. And you can see it through the high schools that we had our 3rd state champion over the past 6 years, and we hopefully will have several more as time progresses, because we have a very good feeder program of kids coming up. So, again, I don't want to take up much of your time, but I appreciate that it's an evolving program and it's evolving policy, and I'll be willing to speak with anybody about what my thoughts are on the policy and what we actually use in the facility, at least for our little program. And we go and we do use the wrestling room pretty extensively during the period. I think we start November 1st and we end somewhere around March 15th. And we're probably in that wrestling room every night with one group of kids or another. We start with our little kindergarten, 1st grade kids for the month of November, and then we work it out through, we have 2 programs for 2nd through 5th grade, and we have a middle school program, and then we have a program that covers all the novice kids. So it definitely, we put, there's a small group of parents that deal with this group, but we put our heart and soul in this, and we'd hate to see it be costed out of the marketplace. So. Right. I appreciate your time, and if you have any questions.
I don't have any questions right now. I would just like to say that certainly we appreciate all the efforts of all the community groups like your own, who volunteer their time to help train our interim kids to come up here to the high school. I know it's a lot of time and effort that you spend personally as well as others. And rest assured that we are in the process of looking at this. We are trying to identify all the groups. We've talked about reaching out to those groups like yourself to have these conversations to get better understanding of impacts on you and needs that you have and how you use the facilities and things like that. So we're just starting that process, to be honest with you, of reaching out. And as you noted, it is an evolving policy. It's gone through a couple of iterations, I'd have to say. This is the first couple that have gotten it out more into the public, where we're starting to look at it in a more open setting. It's been a lot of discussion in advance of that. We've looked at other schools and things like that, try to figure out what they're doing. Certainly, the board had a discussion at the last meeting, and I can't speak for the board, but I think just in summary, I think the board certainly wants to try to help encourage programs like yourself as others in the communities. And certainly not interested in costing you out of the market by what we might charge you for the use of facilities. We're really looking to try to reimburse ourselves from a standpoint of our fair share of the out-of-pocket types of costs that we incur that go beyond that which we would normally incur. So we'll be probably talking. Okay?
No, sure. I appreciate it.
So I appreciate your time in coming here this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Do I have any other public that has comments they would like to make at this time? With that, we can close the public comment session. And I thank those of you, the one who had a comment to make. With that, we can move on to board discussion. I don't have any items on board discussion this evening. Unless somebody else has an item. Okay, we'll move on to action items, the A's. Be aware that we have an A6 that's on the walk-in. Okay, so you can, if everybody's aware of that, then do we have any of the A's, A1 through A6, anybody has that they wish to pull so we can vote on them separately? With that, can I get a motion?
Tim, could you just tell us who was not here on May 3rd and 25th?
Minutes if you need them. Could we, in the future, just list people who were present or not present on these?
Sure.
That always comes up. Nobody can remember.
No, I brought the minutes in case that came up.
Thank you.
Wait, Gary. Was everybody here?
March 3rd, Sandy was not here March 3rd.
Well, she can't vote. She's not here, so
she can't vote anyway.
Then can I make a motion to approve
March
resolutions A1 through A6?
Can I get a second?
I'll do it.
But the March 25th, there was a lot of people absent.
We'll come back to All right, so tell us who was absent on the 25th, so we'll know who can't vote on the 25th, and we'll just have you abstain from that section of the...
Okay, absent was Peter Fallon and Eric.
Can't even make the motion.
We're a lot.
A lot of people.
Wow.
Two.
There's a lot more people, but
20%.
only 2 people on the board. Our student reps were absent, you know. Dr. DeGancy was absent.
So-
Lou, would you make the motion?
Lou will
regarding
make the motion.
25th?
I need a motion. Just say-
Yeah.
We have a motion, just, let's take it, let's do it the one thing at a time. We have a motion on the table for A1 through A6, with A1 being revised to remove the meeting to the March 25th, okay?
That motion
Oh,
I
we're
can
moving
Huh?
the 19th to the,
We have a motion for A1 through A6. A1, by the way, is that reads, says March 3rd and May 25th, but the person who made the motion can't make it because he wasn't here on the 25th. So we're just going to pull off the 25th, okay? We're on A's.
I accept that amendment as my motion.
Okay. Can I get a vote, can I get a roll call vote on A1 through A6 as amended, with A1 as amended?
Yeah, who seconded that? I missed that. I know.
Bernie.
Bernie did.
Bernie,
yes.
okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Binder.
Yes.
Mr. Fallon.
Yes.
Falzarano.
Yep.
Mrs. Mendel.
yes.
Mr. Pepe.
Yes.
Mr. Sun.
Yes.
Dr. Yagged.
Yes.
Dr. Seelig.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
I will move the minutes
Thank
of March 25th.
Can I get a second on that?
Yeah, I'll second.
I'll do it again.
Okay, 2 people that can't vote are Peter and Eric. Can I get a voice vote on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstains.
Abstains?
Me and Eric.
Thank you, and Eric. Motion carries. With that, we can move on. Okay, now, before we move on to the Cs, let me just explain something here. The vast majority of the Cs are going to require some discussion, and since it has to do with personnel, it's going to have to be carried out in executive session for those discussions. And at that, after we have those discussions, we will then come out of that discussion, out of executive session, and we will then carry through and vote on the majority of the Cs. And I would just suggest that for the sake of convenience, we hold off on all the Cs until after the executive session, if that's okay with everybody. Because they're all, a whole lot of those are involved in this. The only 2 that are not, by the way, I'll point out to you, are, we've already voted on the C16 and C17, which had to do with why Dr. Rader's sitting next to me here. Okay. So the C1 through C15, we will discuss in executive.
C18.
And C18, I'm sorry, which is on the walk-ins. And we will discuss those as needed in executive session, and then after that, we'll take action. So let's move on to the finance. Can we move on? Do I have any of the Ds, D1 through D11, that anybody wishes to pull for separate voting? Hearing none. Can I get a motion on the Ds, D1 through D7, D11?
So moved.
Any discussion on D1 through D11?
I'll second it.
That's what I was,
You already did.
there.
Lou seconded it. He just didn't say it, he raised his hand.
Thank you.
Can I have,
If I didn't see it.
my hand, he told
if you didn't see it, didn't
Tim
happen,
Tim
right?
didn't see it.
No, I did not.
Any discussion?
I didn't.
Any discussion on the Ds, D1 through D11?
The only one I had was D2. Those are the transfers, right? I mean, it's
Yes.
not really related to D2, but is there anything that you can tell us about surplus at this point that you expect towards the end of the year, since we're under finance?
No, I mean, it's a little early yet. Just that we're in a good position at the moment. I can tell you this, that in June is my goal to get our auditors in because of the new ability to take some funds and put it into some type of reserve just to verify where we are.
Yeah, having to June 30th to do that?
We have until June 30th to do that, that's correct. That's why I want to get them in June.
And to the extent that is anything that's there that we can do is pre-purchasing for next year, textbooks or something like that, we'll be looking at that too? Or?
Well, you really shouldn't be pre-purchasing into the next school year. There are projects, if I guess an example, what Lou mentioned before, Chris Bick had mentioned some things that need to be done, like a sidewalk project, something that would if we have funds available, at least in those categories, we'd like to at least get those projects.
But once you look at it, you'll be bringing it to us with recommendations.
That's correct. I mean, depending on the site. If it's a small project, we won't, but if it's a larger one,
Yeah,
yes.
we're already into May, that's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
Okay, that was it.
Any other question on D1 through D11? Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Binder?
Yes.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mr. Falzarano?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendel?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Mr. Sun?
Yes.
Dr. Yaget?
Yes.
And Dr. Seelig?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Does anybody have any other business at this time?
I do.
Go ahead.
In Greenbrook, I know they brought a report back, and you may have attended a presentation on gang violence. I don't know if you did it or Fran. I know Fran was there, and
Yeah, I did not.
Dr. DeGanza. I mean, it was very interesting from what I heard, some of the information that was presented that the Greenbrook board, and possible, maybe not now, but at the next meeting, if there's something that you could relate to some of the things, because it's very informative in terms of, I think, the things that are going on right now surrounding us. Maybe it's, doesn't apply yet to the high school, but there's certainly a big pickup that was reported. And I forget who did this. The police, I think, did the presentation. If you want to say it
county.
now, or if you want to wait till the next meeting, I'm not sure. But
I think it was at the county college.
Davies, myself,
Yeah.
Dr. Strongsley, Chief Lefford, and I guess that was it from our community attended. It was excellent. Very similar to what we brought to the faculty last spring in terms of a presentation to make us aware that gangs are no longer just in the urban setting, but they're seeping through into suburbia, and what to look for, the signs of gang-related activities, from colors that you wear, from T-shirts that you wear, from sneakers that you wear, from jerseys that you wear, from hats.
these are like sports hats or sports jerseys that indicate you might a gang, and you could.
Absolutely. We're very fortunate in having Mr. Davies, who is aware of all of these and is in contact with many elements in our school system. So he works out very well.
Tom, did you retrieve anything that we could distribute to the board?
Yes, matter of fact, we got a booklet.
Okay, maybe we can get that and get it out to the board.
That would be good. And I think to emphasize what was said about the wrestling program, I think one of the things I know, at least that's the more you keep kids involved, the more you keep them out of trouble. Right. So when we're doing the policy, I just encourage you to make sure that we have the ability to keep our kids involved.
Any other business at this point in time?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, were you done? I apologize.
I have other business, but I'm
Go ahead, finish up.
The school board's, New Jersey School Board meeting, there's 2 resolutions that are up. One has to do with when they do the, when you hold elections, that there should be a program to teach children that day the importance of and the meaning of participating in the elections, and they're looking for an endorsement of that. The other one is probably a little more interesting in the sense that they want to deal with a second question issue that now is required a supermajority, and I think they want to put in place a policy that would allow them to go out and say this is not the right thing to be doing. So whoever goes to that meeting, should we find somebody to go, I mean, without discussing it, I think we should support at least the second one. The first one is very interesting too, and a civil lesson, but I don't know if anybody has any feelings about it. I mean,
does everybody know the concept of the issue about the second question, supermajority? You want to explain that?
Well, the law this year required that if you put a second question on, it required a 60% affirmative vote, and that should that fail, you could not bring it back. The municipality cannot restore it. Big change from what happened last year. For example, we put busing, courtesy busing on our, that's the second question, including the high school busing, and it did pass, but if it had not passed, we still could have had the township consider it, things like that. Now, the way the law has changed, second questions have to be approved by 60%, and should they fail, they can't be reconsidered. And that's very harsh, because there are some things perhaps that voters, you might want to put out to the voters as a second question. I think that's trying to keep everything within the context of a single budget and the 4%, things along those lines. But that's going to be discussed at this assembly, and in terms of whether the school should support this, changing it back to maybe where it was before.
And I want to agree with Jerry. I think the second item we should support. I remember looking the day after the election at some results, and I don't remember the particular district, but I did see a district that had a second question on there that had more than 50% people voting in favor of the second question, and it didn't pass because there were not 60% of the people voting in favor of it. And it is a situation where you have a majority of the people who come out to vote in town saying, let's do it, and the state legislature has decided that, no, you're not allowed to do that, despite that vote. So I think we should support that. The other one, I would heartily vote against. We're cramming things into the school day, and I say every time to the bureaucrats down in Trenton and to others, tell me what you're going to take out of the curriculum if you want to put something else in.
The exact words is they want to say, New Jersey School Board believes all New Jersey schools on all election days should be encouraged to provide lessons in civic responsibility and the importance of exercising these hard-earned rights. So, sounds very good, but like Peter says.
Well, the question is, to Peter's point, tell me what you're not going to do in a school day then, if you're going to spend time teaching that, although it's a good civic lesson. We do have programs in the school, as they do in a number of the K through 8s, that encourage kids and educate kids during the school day about the importance in elections and getting into the elections. I think whoever does represent us, I would certainly agree with Peter and Jerry on this about the second question, supermajority voting. I think there were something like 5 districts. It was a handful of districts out of maybe 80 that had second questions that passed. Some of them got turned down with getting like 58% of the votes, so that it's pretty stark.
Yeah,
so
that's harsh.
Pardon?
That's harsh.
That's pretty harsh. Yeah.
58%.
Wow. So whoever decides to go to the New Jersey School Board Association for us, and if Pete can't make it, then somebody else will have to. I would encourage us to vote to approve that one. The other one, I think, we'll leave that one up to another day to discuss and debate. Any other questions? Any other business at this time? Jerry, you have another one?
Yeah,
okay.
But I was reading in the newspaper, and I know it's also on the school board site, changing in the high school requirements.
I'm sorry, just repeat what
changing in high school graduation requirements is coming up, or it's being discussed, or...
You mean the redesign of
the high school system, and I'd like to see something presented. I don't know whether it can be done at the next meeting or what that would involve as far as us goes, whether we're compliant or...
Well, there's a project that's been started, a governor's commission, and they've come back and they've issued a report. It's reported on the New Jersey School Board site. And what school boards is trying to do is trying to drum up support for the idea of getting people behind the redesign of education, actually from first grade through 12th grade, the idea of educating our kids so they will be both better able to perform in college, and those who aren't going to college better able to function in the workplace and have skills that match the needs of the workplace of the year 2008, 9, and beyond, rather than some of the skills they say we've been teaching now. It's an interesting concept. I started looking at all of it. I didn't start looking at all of it. I started looking at some of it. But I think it's probably a topic we ought to consider having a discussion in some group. I don't know that we need it at a board level yet.
Whether, and how well we fit into this or don't.
Curriculum committee, is that the right place to have a discussion on it?
I'll leave that up to you, whether you want it to be the full board or curriculum. I'd just like to know how we fit together with what's been...
It's up on the website, the New Jersey School Board?
Yeah, and it was also in the Star Ledger.
We all just got an email this afternoon on that from the New Jersey School Boards Association on that issue. And there's lots of detail,
Okay.
But I mean, one of the little nuggets in there, which I just wanted to highlight, was that New Jersey the high schools in New Jersey, the kids who go to high school in New Jersey, are more prepared than a lot of other states. And I think that that is a fact that really gets lost, because I think kids in New Jersey, particularly districts like ours, are at a huge disadvantage. You know, we're kind of like a dime a dozen. We don't have enough spots, you know, in colleges in our own state for all of our accomplished kids. So obviously a lot of them, you know, have to go up to other states where they're getting preference with, you know, giving preference to their own kids. So I always, I mean, I've seen it, you know, decades really, that New Jersey high school kids that are accomplished really are at a disadvantage, and it's just not a fact that's really out there. And I would like to see something like that really advocated at a forum like the New Jersey School Board Association, and you know, just have an awareness for that fact.
Good.
You know, because our kids, you know, are much more competitive. Like if you were comparing New Jersey SAT scores with other states, you know, I believe that our kids perform, you know, much higher. So I just think that's
Of course, one of the other nuggets in there is with any of these commissions, they then talk about what additional testing burdens they're going to impose, and that's something where this will become much more, I think, controversial in terms of, you know, do we need another standard that we need to put the kids through in order to graduate? And it's talking about end of course tests in chemistry and in biology and a few other, and some of the math courses. And you know, on one place it says it'll replace the HESPAs, on another place maybe it's not going to replace the HESPAs. And so there's a number of things to be looked at there.
Okay. Jerry, I think you may have another item.
Yeah, the last one I have, sorry, is CUSAC, and where we stand with CUSAC. You know, I'm concerned. I know in Greenbrook how far we're already well down the road in terms of CUSAC monitoring this year. Committees have been formed. A lot of information has been gathered. I mean, it's volumes of stuff and and I haven't seen much progress here. I don't know where we stand, and I want to know. Very concerned about how we're going to get through CUSAC and what we have to do. With Fran being out, I'm sure it doesn't really help us at this point.
Yeah, I can't talk about it too much.
Not much, honestly. I think Fran knows a little bit more about it than I do. I know that we really haven't started a great deal of gathering.
I mean, honestly.
We'll get up to speed.
But we do have to get up to speed.
Well, we do need to form group committees.
You need teachers, you need a whole group of, you know,
Agreed.
people formed from the school system itself. When's that going to happen? I mean,
Tom, are you aware of any of the details on how we're, okay. Let's get a report on it at the next meeting.
I'd like to see a schedule or something of where we're going to be with this thing.
Can we adopt a rule that Terry's only allowed to ask 2 questions on
You can make a motion to that effect. I don't think
You can do 4 and you'll still never.
I'm done, I promise. I'm finished.
Is any other items on other business at this point in time? Pete, you have one?
Jerry actually reminded me that I did get a telephone call from the president of the Greenbrook Board after the election. As you'll all recall, back in February, we started the process sending to them a proposed contract for going forward with the sending-receive relationship, and we expect to start having the negotiations over the new contract along the lines that we had previously discussed here, beginning later later in May. The only other thing is I'll say with regard to that, notwithstanding that we're renegotiating the terms, that now we did achieve the change that we were looking for when we sent that draft contract in February, and that is some of the things that in years past the district had not billed to Greenbrook are being billed, and we've had discussions with Greenbrook, and I think the relationship is moving on nicely, and we here in the district are doing a better job of making sure we're getting reimbursed for the costs that we should be reimbursed for.
And we're happy to pay those costs on a fair and equitable basis.
Okay. Any other business at this time? All right, with that, I think we can open it up for second opportunity for public comment on other topics that you might want to bring up at this time. Anybody in the public? Same rules apply. You have 5 minutes, and you have to give me your name and address. Okay. So with that, we'll move on into executive session. Can I get a motion to move into executive session for discussion of confidential matters that are going to deal with attorney-client privileges and matters of personnel, and we fully expect and negotiations, right? And we fully expect to take action after the executive session.
So moved.
Can I get a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Lou seconded.